Hello everyone and welcome to the daily morning podcast of SBI Securities. So friends, let's discuss how the markets closed on Monday. Sensex closed lower by 57 points to settle at 79,649. Nifty closed lower by 21 points to settle at 24,347. Nifty Mid Cap 100 and Nifty Small Cap 100 advanced by 0.27% and 0.19% respectively. Moving on to the top 5 gainers and losers on Nifty. So the top 5 gainers were ONGC, Hero MotoCorp, Axis Bank, Infosys, Cipla. Whereas the top 5 losers were Adani Ports, NTPC, Dr. Reddy's Laboratory, Power Grid, Nestle. Moving on to the sector-wise, BSE sector-wise advanced and declined. So BSE Reality, Consumer Durable, Oil and Gas, Metals, IT, BankX and Telecommunication advanced from the range of 0.3% to 1.3%, with BSE Reality gaining the most. However, BSE Auto, Services and Utilities declined from the range of 0.21% to 1.04%. Talking about the market breadth, around 1,899 stocks advanced, whereas 2,187 stocks declined. Talking about 52-week high, around 140 stocks scaled new 52-week high. Some of them were Barumpool Chini, Bikaji, CDSL, Granules, India Glycols, All India, Voltas. Whereas 28 stocks traded at new 52-week low. Some of them were Apollo Pipes, Equitas Small Finance. Moving on to FIDI. So FI net sold to the tune of rupees 4,681 crores. Whereas DI net bought to the tune of rupees 4,477.7 crores in the cash market on Monday. Talking about the global cues look supportive. The US benchmark indices overnight ahead of CPI data to be released tomorrow closed flat with positive bias. While Dow ended 140 points in red, Nasdaq and S&P closed with gains of 35 and 0.2 and 0.2 points respectively. The Asian markets are currently trading in green and we expect a flat to positive start for our market today. Now moving on to the quarterly earnings. So the following companies will declare their 1Q FY25 results today. So some of them are All Cargo Logistic, Anupam Rasayan India, Apollo Hospital Enterprises, Ashoka Buildcon, Dilip Buildcon, Endurance Technology, EPL, Gujarat Fluorochemical, GMR Airport Infrastructure, Hindalco Industries, Hero MotoCorp, Ipca Laboratories, IRCTC, Marksans Pharma, Ratnamani Metals and Tube, SJVN, TBO Tech, TCI Express, Techno Electric and Engineering, Texmaco Rail and Engineering, VST Tillers Tractors, and Yatharth Hospital, and so on. Now, talking about the quarterly earnings, the following companies declared their quarterly earnings post market hours. So, first one we have is Vodafone Idea, where the consolidated revenue was down 1% QOQ at rupees 10,508 crores. EBITDA was down 3% QOQ, and the company reported a net loss of rupees 6,432 crores versus a loss of 7,675 crores. The EBITDA margin stood at 40% versus 40.9% QOQ. So overall the numbers were in line with expectation, so neutral to positive for Vodafone Idea in short term. Campus Activewear, so the consolidated revenue was down 4.1%. EBITDA and net profit were down by 21.9% and 19.4%. EBITDA margin stood at 15.3% versus 18.7%. So overall weak set of numbers declared by Campus Activewear. So overall negative for the company in short term. Hindustan Copper, the consolidated revenue was up 33.15% YOY. EBITDA and net profit were up by 103 and 140% YOY. EBITDA margin stood at 38.25% versus 25.06%. So overall strong numbers reported by Hindustan Copper. So overall positive for the company in short term. RCF, the consolidated revenue was up 8.7% YOY. However, the EBITDA and net profit was down by 10.3% and 84%. EBITDA margin stood at 2.6% versus 3.2% YOY. So overall weak set of numbers declared by RCF. So overall negative for the company in short term. IRFC, so the total income was up 1.3% YOY and net profit was also up by 1.7% YOY. So overall neutral set of numbers for IRFC. So overall neutral to marginally negative for the company in short term. DOMS Industry, so the consolidated revenue was up 17.4% YOY. EBITDA and net profit were up by 40.3% and 50% YOY. EBITDA margins expanded by 319 basis points and stood at 19.55% versus 16.35%. So the numbers were better than the market expectations, so positive for the company in short term. Dollar Industries, the consolidated revenue was up 2% YOY. EBITDA and net profit were up by 33% and 7% YOY. EBITDA margin stood at 10.8% versus 8.2%. So overall, the numbers were in line with expectation. Therefore, we expect a positive reaction for the company in today's trade. Ingersoll Rand, so the revenue was up 4.3% YOY. EBITDA was up 15.2% YOY. Net profit was up 14.8% YOY. The EBITDA margin stood at 26% versus 23.5%. So overall, good set of numbers declared by the company. So positive for the company in short term. Senco Gold, the consolidated revenue was up 7.6% YOY. EBITDA and net profit was up by 60% and 82% YOY. The EBITDA margin stood at 7.8% versus 5.2% YOY. So strong performance by Senco Gold. Therefore, we expect a positive reaction in today's trade. Ami Organics, so the revenue was up 14.9% YOY. EBITDA was down 13.3% YOY. And net profit was also down by 34% YOY. EBITDA margin stood at 16.7% versus 22.1%. So overall, weak set of numbers declared by Ami Organics. Therefore, we expect a negative reaction in today's trade. DCX System, so the consolidated revenue was down 19%. The company reported an EBITDA loss of 5 crores versus an EBITDA of rupees 8 crores. The net profit was down 70% at rupees 3 crores. So overall, weak set of numbers declared by DCX System. Therefore, we expect a negative reaction for the companies in today's trade. Orchid Pharma, so the consolidated revenue was up 33%. EBITDA and net profit. So the EBITDA was up 35% and net profit stood at 29 crores versus 9 crores YOY. The EBITDA margin stood at 12.7% versus 12.6%. So a decent set of numbers by Orchid Pharma. Therefore, we expect a positive reaction. Hoodco, so the standalone total income was up 19% YOY. Net profit was up 25% YOY. So overall, decent set of numbers declared by Hoodco. Therefore, we expect a marginal positive reaction in today's trade. NRB Bearings, so the consolidated revenue was up 6% YOY. EBITDA was down 7% YOY and net profit was up 37% YOY. EBITDA margin stood at 14.5% versus 16.5%. So overall, strong set of numbers reported by NRB Bearings. Therefore, we expect a positive reaction in today's trade. NMDC, so the consolidated revenue was up 0.35%. EBITDA and net profit were up by 17.4% and 19.3%. The EBITDA margins expanded by 627 basis point and stood at 43.2% versus 36.94%. So overall, the numbers were better than the market expectation. Therefore, we expect a positive reaction in today's trade. Now, moving on to the stocks which are likely to be in focus today. So first we have is GR Infra Projects. The company received a letter of intent from REC Power Development for a transmission project in Karnataka. So positive for the company in short term. Marico, the company's manufacturing operations in Bangladesh have resumed at normal scale. So overall, neutral for the company. JSW Steel, the company is set to acquire up to 66.7% economic interest in M Resources NSW through a purchase of Class B shares. The acquisition will be made at a cost of $120 million with an additional investment obligation of $50 million. M Resource NSW holds a 30% stake in the mine operator of coking coal mines located in New South Wales, Australia. So positive for JSW Steel in long term. Power Grid Corporation, the company has received a letter of intent for a 20 gigawatt interstate transmission line in Rajasthan. So positive for Power Grid in long term. KPI Green Energy, the company has opened its QIP and set the floor price at rupees 983 per share. So positive for the company in long term. Jindal Stainless, the company has been accredited by the BrahMos Aerospace as a qualified vendor for steel sheets. So positive for Jindal Stainless in medium to long term. Moving on to the listing, first is BrainBees Solution, where the company's share will debut on the stock exchange on Tuesday, that is today, at an issue price of rupees 465 per share. So it was a 4,193.73 crore IPO, which was subscribed 12.22 times on its third and final day. Bids were led by institutional investors 19.3 times, retail investors 2.31 times, non-institutional investors 4.68 times, and reserve for employees 6.57 times. Second one we have is Unicommerce Solution. So the company shares will debut on stock exchange today at an issue price of rupees 108 per share. So it was a 276.57 crore IPO, which was subscribed 168.35 times on its third and final day. Bids were led by Insti investors, that is 138.75 times, retail investors 130.99 times, and non-Insti investors 252.46 times. Moving on to a corporate action, where first one we have is X record dividend. So the following companies will go through it. So they are Great Eastern Shipping Company, EIH Associated Hotels, Heritage Foods, Fine Organic Industries, Dunseri Ventures, Bandhan Bank, SJS Enterprises, Navneet Education, Lloyds Metal and Energy, IKEA Lighting. Second one we have is X Record Rights. So that is so we have for Orient Green Power. Yeah, so that was all from the Fundamental Daily Morning Podcast of SBI Securities. Thank you for listening.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.